This section of our program is called Coach's Corner, and there is no better person to lead that than my buddy and co-host Wayne Bidelman, business and marketing strategist and coach to many business owners. Take it away, my friend.
Well, thank you, Joe. You know, where this question comes from, and you know this as well as I do, and we've talked about this off and on, sometimes we come across as being terribly negative about business ownership. Because too many people get involved in it and don't really understand, the challenges. But nevertheless, it also creates great opportunity. And one of the opportunities that owning your own business has, is that you can build a business so that you make a comparable salary that what you could get to work for the man. But you also have a lot of opportunities to expand your business, leverage good work that you've done with your business, and make even more money. So you can leverage a lot. In fact, with business ownership, there's opportunity to make more money and work less if you do it right. And so the question comes around, well, what are all the options for expanding your business, and how do you decide which one to do? Now, we're hopeful of getting Don Clayton with us on here about the franchise side.
Hey, Don, are you with us, buddy?
I am here. Good morning.
We've got Don. Okay, Don, I don't know if you heard my lead in, but we're answering a coach's question about all the different ways that a business owner can expand their business and leverage a good business. And we're going to talk about franchises in a minute. But let me just make a few comments first. There are lots of ways for a business owner to expand their business so they can make it bigger. We've talked before. In fact, just a few weeks ago, we talked about the fact that sometimes business owners kind of hit a wall and they're not sure what to do, whether to get big or not. But they have the opportunity, I say, to expand horizontally or vertically. Vertically would be, okay, you've got existing client base, come up with more products and services. Horizontally, one of the key ways is to open up more stores, to put businesses in other locations. And there are lots of ways to do that, including franchises. But before we talk about that, the point I would make is that if you are going to expand your business, you need to position your business almost the same as if you're going to sell it. In other words, if it needs you to run the business, it's going to be real difficult to open up another shop somewhere else. If you don't have good systems and processes in place and documented so someone else can do them, you aren't going to be able to have somebody else do them. You aren't going to be able to hire more people to take care of it for you. And you just aren't going to have a business that's going to be able to be expanded. Now, one of the best ways to expand your business is to think about expanding geographically, and franchising is one of the best ways to do that. And before we get Don involved, Joe, was there anything you wanted to add? You want to introduce Don?
Well, let me just say this. It's a great question, and it's a great problem to have. How do I scale my business means how do I grow my business so I can create more revenue? What I want to say is be really careful. The second location could absolutely destroy you. I mean, the second location is more challenging than the first.
Absolutely.
And so you just have to be very careful about that. Think long and hard. It was easy to start the first one because you were there to clean up the mistakes. When you start the second one, you're not going to be around, so those mistakes are going to be much more expensive. So be really careful about that and think that through. There are other ways to do that. And to grow the current business may be a smarter move than to add a second location. Every business, and I have to be vague because I don't know the business we're talking about, but in general, all businesses in all industries have this sort of level, this success level. There's a certain amount of sales, certain amount of revenue that you can generate that creates the optimal amount of profit. And if you literally, and this happens many times, if you start creating more sales, it doesn't mean you necessarily create more profit. You really have to be careful, and it does depend on the industry. In some industries, it is better off to create a second location, and in some industries, you're better off just to expand what it is you have. So it's hard for me to be specific here because I don't know the industry, and what I do for a living, it's industry specific, but it's a great problem to have. But the question is even a better question, and I want you to be concerned on actually how you do this.
And one of the best ways to expand, as we mentioned, is through franchising. And we've got the franchise king on the phone with us today.
Mr. Don, you got an opinion on this?
Got Don Clayton, who's membership director of FranServe, who you've been around franchises for a long time, haven't you, Don?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I sure have. I think it's a great topic, and it's a great discussion to have for sure, because there are a lot of business owners out there that are thinking this right now, and they're wondering, what's the best way to expand. And Wayne, you put it perfectly as far as horizontally or vertically is concerned. And as it relates to horizontally, one thing that we do as an organization, we currently support franchise consultants in the United States and Canada. And, Joe, you mentioned, it's just not that your industry or your space. We have over 430 franchise brands under representation in 17 categories and 179 subcategories. Wow. So, we have the franchising model has certainly expanded a lot more than the Subways of the day in the early 1990s when you had mailboxes, et cetera, before it was UPS store, right? And MIT currently did a study that right now over 200 new franchises are being introduced into the marketplace every year.
Wow.
So it is an industry that is expanding greatly. And one thing that we do as an organization is we put business owners through what we call a franchise assessment. And so the first thing we look at is, in order to be franchisable, what we call it, is your business repeatable? Is it sustainable? Does it have a proven system in place? Are you profitable? Do you have at least 3 years of operational history? So there's a lot of dynamics that go into play in the whole franchise assessment.
And that's a great service to provide because, businesses will have never done this before. And you just nailed the things that they've got to make sure that they're good at. So what would you tell a business owner who thinks they want to franchise? What's the first thing they ought to do?
Well, you need to look and see what your bandwidth is. What is your internal bandwidth? Do you currently have a management team in place capable of supporting franchisees? That's the number one thing. And, we don't look at a business with one operational unit necessarily. We typically advise that they go ahead and just open up another one on their own. Let's see if they can sustain another unit without going through the franchise model. Is the business affordable to buy and operate as far as the equipment, the furniture, the fixtures, the inventory, and things of that nature? So there's a lot of things that go into it. Another thing that a lot of business owners don't know is that the founders and or the directors, do they have felonies? Are there any bankruptcies? Are there any lawsuits that need to be disclosed? And a lot of these guys think that information can be hidden, but it can't be hidden. It has to be disclosed.
I'm thinking I don't want to buy a
business with someone that has a felony.
I'm kind of thinking I don't want to buy a franchise from a convict.
I think that's what he's saying. Okay, Don, we talked about how someone should decide if they want a franchise. If they're going to go through the process, what does that look like?
Yeah, so just an example here. We currently back in July of 2015, we started working with a company out of Massachusetts, Boston, and they are called the Flying Locksmiths. Okay,
Flying Locksmith.
The Flying Locksmiths. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep. Very cool little logo of a locksmith flying in an airplane. Very cool. Based in near Boston, Massachusetts. They've been around since 1946.
Oh my goodness!
And last year we began working with them to develop them into a franchise. Very successful model. A very nice, capable team, in-house team. Put together. We franchised them in July of 2015.
So it only took them 60 years to decide they wanted to franchise.
I guess it did. And we currently have them licensed. One thing that you have to realize is that every state has their own regulation. We have them licensed in all states except for 3, Hawaii, South Dakota, North Dakota. But as of today, we have currently placed over 50 new units of this franchise in what's that now? 8 months, 9 months.
Wow.
We just finished Houston, Texas, Dallas, Texas, Fort Worth area. But that's a business model that, hey, a locksmith cannot be replaced by the internet, guys. You got to have someone on the ground helping you out. But some of the things that we do is, look, we advise the business entity on franchise parent company. We work with them on the FDD, which back in the day used to be called the UFOC, the Uniform Franchise Circular, and today it's the FDD, the Franchise Disclosure Document. We work with them on preparing financial statements. There's a lot that has to be done. So here's the deal, Joe and Wayne. If you want to go down through the franchising model, you can do that, and you can be very successful in doing that. If you pass the franchise assessment, okay, these are the quantitative things that we have to be in order to franchise.
Right.
You then have to be committed, okay? You and your team have to be committed to go down that route, because there's a lot of preparation that needs to be done in order to do it right.
And you know, Don, now's a great time to talk about this. It essentially is starting a new business. I mean, it's what they need to understand. Franchising your business all in itself is a business.
Absolutely correct.
And the owner is going to have to play an entirely different role than maybe they've done up to that point.
What he said was exactly,
Absolutely
Joe, you're
correct.
A genius.
Yeah.
I was restating it, so it was more correct.
Stop with the bell, man.
We've just got about a minute and a half. What are some of the more interesting businesses? You just mentioned one, the Flying Locksmith. That's pretty interesting. What are some other interesting businesses you've been involved with in franchising?
I think we may have talked about this one before, Geese Chasers.
Oh, yeah. Actually, I saw one of those the other day.
Yeah, that's a fun one where they take to try to control the Canadian geese population.
On golf courses.
Yes, on golf courses, absolutely. One that has been trending a lot lately are these new blow-dry bars, and we talked about those, Cherry Blow-Dry Bar, and there's others where very high scale, you go in and you're treated like a celebrity. You're served mimosas. We talked about that, wine, cocktails.